Anne Hathaway is starring in an upcoming Amazon movie called Yesteryear. And this movie is based on a novel written by Caro Claire Burke. I have not heard of this author before, but it seems like she's in the realm of Colleen Hoover, who wrote It Ends With Us. And a lot of these books that are targeted to women are getting film adaptations now because they've seen a successful example of that. So I just want to go through the synopsis of this story and why this was such a hot bid. Like, why is this relevant for women in 2024? Yesteryear is about Natalie, a woman who lives a traditional lifestyle. Her charming farmhouse on a working ranch is rustic and artfully cluttered. Her husband, a handsome cowboy. Her 6 children, each more delightful than the last. Mm-hmm. So what if there are nannies and producers behind the scenes? Her kitchen hiding industrial-grade fridges and ovens. Her husband, the Republican equivalent of a Kennedy. Her oldest daughter beginning to ask questions about whether her mother is a, quote, tradwife. What Natalie's followers, all 8 million of them, don't know won't hurt them. And the angry women, the privileged Ivy League coastal elite haters who call her an anti-feminist iconoclast, they're just jealous. Natalie isn't simply living the good life, she's living the ideal of what life should be, and just so happens to be building an empire from it. Then she wakes up in a life that isn't hers. Her home, her husband, her children, they're all familiar, but something is off. Her kitchen is lit by a sputtering fire rather than electricity. Her children are dirty and disheveled. Her soft-handed husband is suddenly a competent farmer. Her daughter informs her that it's 1805, where just yesterday Natalie was curating photos of homemade sourdough for Instagram. She is now expected to haul firewood and hand wash clothes until her hands bleed. Has she become the unwitting star of a brutal reality show? Could it be time travel? Is she being tested by God, by Satan? Already reckoning with forces beyond her control. When Natalie becomes pregnant with her new quote-unquote husband's child, it quickly becomes apparent that it doesn't matter how she got here. All that matters is how she gets out. So, this is, I think, quite obviously throwing shade at a very particular influencer we have talked about on the show before, whose name is Hannah Nealman. She is a former professional ballet dancer and a pageant winner, and she owns the media empire, which is Ballerina Farm. She runs this homestead with her husband, who comes from money. It's all very glamorous, but it also looks very humble at the same time, and it makes a lot of these so-called coastal elite haters really angry. And they decided to write a book about her with a different name and then make it into a movie starring Anne Hathaway.
Wait, is the book new?
The book is relatively recently written,
Okay.
yes, but it got sold. The rights got sold to Amazon to make the movie about it.
There could be a very, very interesting movie made about the gap between what it takes to make the simple life look appealing.
Okay.
Which is inherently not simple.
I would want to see a documentary about that.
Yes.
Not necessarily a psychological horror.
Now, if we're talking
film.
about a modern day version of The Truman Show, where she's stuck in a world she doesn't understand for a bunch of people on social media to watch as all of this happens, I'd call it mildly derivative and not at all that interesting, personally. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I again, this is a very you topic. This isn't a very me topic.
Yeah.
I find the most interesting part of channels like that there's a lot of effort that goes into making that world look the way it does. But I'm also not a girl, and I'm not into the aesthetics the way that girls are.
Oh, I apologize. I was wrong about the novel. The novel is coming out soon.
Okay, so the novel's not even out yet.
Yeah, the novel
Okay.
is not even out yet, but that was the summary of the plot. And it's funny, they did the same thing with Argylle, where the book Argylle was released at the same time as the movie Argylle. Mm-hmm. So It's not like it had an existing fan base. Literally nobody was asking for this movie to get made. Nobody. And yet,
with the right director and with the right styling, I actually think something like this could work for a certain type of audience. It wouldn't be me.
the people who watched Don't Worry Darling, maybe. But
yeah.
it's like, okay, they already made the feminist psychological thriller film, so are we just going to do that over and over again?
They should go full on horror.
And all we know so far is that Anne Hathaway is attached to star and produce, and Amazon won the auction for this film, so it's going to be on streaming anyway, and nobody's going to care when it comes out. But they're doing it as a passion project. Like, this is how excited they get at the idea of throwing everyone who lives a so-called traditional lifestyle under the bus. Like, they really hate someone like Hannah Nealman because she's so evidently content with her lifestyle, and they want there to be some kind of insidious, horrible, sinister backstory, and they're really just hoping that it'll be found out one day that she's getting abused and all of this stuff. But they're not going to find that out because she's just happy living her life, putting together flower bouquets and baking bread. It's not that complicated.
25 years ago, I could give them the benefit of the doubt that they would take this idea that they don't really understand and want to explore it in an artistic sense. I don't know if I give them the benefit of the doubt for something like that now. I think it's fair to look at those types of social media influencers and ask questions. I do. I don't think that, like, I don't buy most of the time when you see somebody portraying the picturesque, perfect lifestyle on social media that it's actually all that perfect behind the scenes. Not that it's bad, but like I said, a lot of work goes into making stuff look perfect.
Of course.
And again, there's an interesting concept for a story there, but that's not really what it seems like that they're going for.
No, they're not genuinely curious because they've already come up with their own conclusions.
Yes.
That's
Which
very
isn't
different than merely asking questions. Yeah. I don't even have a problem with them asking questions, but they went to Hannah Nealman's property in Utah. This journalist did. And she asked Hannah a lot of questions, and she got her answers. And she took all of those completely benign answers and crafted them into a completely fabricated account of a woman basically living in captivity in The Handmaid's Tale. So they've asked enough questions. They're done asking questions. They've made up their mind about this woman. And now they're mobilizing the Hollywood system to target her, literally. I mean, it's very clear. Do you think I'm drawing the wrong conclusion here, that this is about her? It's very clearly, to me at least,
maybe not
job.
her specifically, but the writer and the director and the starring actor and all these people will have been very familiar now with the term tradwife and what that means in modern day culture, which is very, very different from what it would have meant 50 years ago, because the term wouldn't have existed 50 years ago.
It seems like a hit job to me.
I think it's it's a coastal elite liberal perspective of something they don't agree with, which rarely goes well unless you're working with a director or a writer that wants to ask questions and create art from a place of honest appeal rather than somebody who's looking to draw a conclusion that hurts the idea that they're trying to mimic or cover for their story.
Yeah.
I saw somebody in the chat say that those types of channels are what you call wholesome propaganda. They are, in a way. They are a form of wholesome propaganda, and I would question whether that's a bad idea even. You could make the claim that it does, in a way, create unrealistic expectations that then the more neurotic a person is, they will then be upset when their life doesn't fall down that path. But that's a problem of the consumer, not of the creator. That's on you as an individual who consumes content online to understand the difference between social media reality and true reality, which are very, very different things. All of these are fascinating concepts that I have absolutely zero faith they will tackle in a fun and interesting way.
It's not just the propaganda thing, though. It's not just, oh, social media is just the highlight reel. You don't see the low points. Well, it's not just that people are mad about. Because when you see hoes on Instagram posing in bikinis on yachts and posing with designer brands and showing this luxurious, lavish lifestyle. That's obviously a highlight reel too, right? But nobody hates on that because it portrays a different image than family life. It's specifically the aspect, it's the characteristic of Hannah Nealman's family life and her religious views that are being attacked.
Yeah.
It's definitely not like, oh, you lie about how you afford all of your kitchenware. It's not that. It is about values.
And it's not even necessarily true that that's all social media is. There's plenty of influencers who make a living off of only posting DLs and being willing to be so open with you because they will share the most humiliating thing that ever happened to them. And people watch it like it's a circus. And then they develop the parasocial relationship thinking that they actually care about this person when really what you like is the train wreck.
Oh, they're so relatable. Well, Anne Hathaway is not just starring in Yesteryear. She is starring in yet another movie adapted from a book that nobody wanted. It's a Colleen Hoover novel named Verity, getting adapted into a film next. After it ends with us, they were like, okay, cha-ching, let's do this thing again. Let's repeat the same formula. So Anne Hathaway is starring as a writer in this movie. Lowen Ashley is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts a job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series that his injured wife is unable to finish. She arrives at the Crawford home, hoping to find enough material to get started, but what Lowen doesn't expect to uncover in the chaotic office is an unfinished autobiography Verity never intended for anyone to read. Page after page.
Who writes a full autobiography that's like you just,
no one was
you just
supposed
wrote
to
that
read.
shit for fun? Who does that?
Isn't that just a diary?
Holy
I don't know.
crap.
Page after page of bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of what really happened the day her daughter died. She decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents would devastate the grieving father. But as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, she recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. After all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying would make it impossible for him to continue to love her. So this is actually very gross. Like all of these stories have to do with infidelity and promiscuity and abuse, and
women love that
I
stuff.
understand that these are the things you add to a story to spice it up and make it interesting, but I also just don't think there's that much of a demand for a movie like this.
I think this is exactly the type of stuff that women
make it a Hallmark movie. I don't know.
Hollywood struggles to find ways to market these films, but if the book market is any indication, then this is exactly what women want.
Well, I did see a lot of people clowning on Anne Hathaway for taking this role. One said Colleen Hoover adaptations are the new comic book movies. They are turning into the MCU for women. Yeah. Seriously. And romance novels, as you know from watching this show, are already a social contagion. Needs to be stopped. Another one said the world does not need more Colleen Hoover book-to-movie adaptations, please. She saw the check that Blake Lively got and said, let me have some. End the Colleen Hoover epidemic. OMG, Anne Hathaway, you have an Oscar. This isn't you. It's pretty low brow.
That's a really weird form of parasocial relationship to say that you know who Anne Hathaway is.
Well, she's saying that Anne Hathaway has made enough of a career for herself that she shouldn't do lowbrow.
Maybe she wants to.
Rom-coms.
Maybe this is what she wants to do.
Whatever. Romantic dramas. Rom-droms.
Maybe it makes her happy.
The idea of you, though, that was really stupid. I mean, Anne Hathaway's last movie was basically about her falling in love with Harry Styles. That's it. That's it. And did that do well at the box office? I don't even remember.
It didn't come out
anymore.
in theaters, remember?
Oh, was it a streaming movie?
It was a streaming movie, yeah.
Okay. I guess we'll never know.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.